Okay, so we are going to solve this by using the square root method. If you watch the video on Friday, this is what it's on. So let's see if we can. Okay, so we are going to solve this by using the square root method. The square root method only works if the following happens. Can you take the square root of 121? What is the square root of 121? It is 11. If you double 11, what do you get? 22. So does that equal B? So if you can take the square root of C and double it and get B, then you can go straight into the square root method. So to do that, x plus 11 squared, this sign and this sign should always match. Again, this one and these should always match. How I got, well, 11 was 121. The square root of 121 is 11. And then you just leave 64. Now, the square root method means you're going to take the square root of both sides. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. The square root of x plus 11 squared is x plus 11. And this becomes plus or minus 8 because the square root of 64 is 8. From there, we are actually going to subtract the 11. Since 11 is positive, we're going to subtract it from both sides. So we have x equals negative 11 plus or minus 8. So what that means is x equals negative 11 plus 8. X equals negative 11 minus 8. Because you actually, and I always take the number that I'm moving from the left-hand side to the right-hand side and I put it in front of that plus or minus sign. You will always have two roots because your equation is squared. And negative 11 plus 8 is negative 3. Negative 11 minus 8 is negative 19. Okay, now we're going to try this problem. So go ahead and try this problem, pause the video and try it and then check back to see if you're correct. Okay, so the square root of 256 is 16. Double 16, you get 32, so we can go straight into that square root mode. This sign and this sign match, equals 196. Take the square root. X plus 16 equals plus or minus 14. Some kids are breaking it up into x plus 16 equals positive 14 and an x plus 16 equals negative 14, and you can do that, that's fine. You get x equals negative 16 plus 14, x equals negative 16 minus 14, x equals negative 2, x equals negative 30. Remember, you have two answers because your equation is a quadratic equation, which means you have two roots. It means that this is where that parabola is going to cross the x-axis. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do two problems that involve irrational roots, okay? So these are going to be irrational. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, and we're going to leave it in irrational form. Try it at home, pause the video, and then check back to see if your answer is correct. Can you take the square root of 100? What do you get when you take the square root of 100? When you double 10, what do you get? You get 20. So when you do this, remember that sign needs to match this sign. The square root of 100 is 10 equals 18. Just like before, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. I get x minus 10 equals plus or minus the square root of 18. You guys, you can't, the square root of 18 is not perfect. So what I need to do is I need to simplify it. So I'm going to do the little tree. Two numbers you can multiply to get 18 are 2 and 9. I circle 2 because that's prime. Two numbers you can multiply to get 9 are 3 times 3. This is a pair of shoes I can wear. So x minus 10 equals plus or minus. These go on the outside because they are a pair, and the 2 is left on the inside. I'm going to add 10 to both sides. And my final answer is x equals 10 plus or minus 3 square roots of 2. That is what I mean by leave it in radical form. Okay? Okay, this time we're going to round, instead of simplifying the square root, we are going to round to the nearest tenth. So we're actually going to get a numerical answer, no radical form, okay? So try this one. So leave this one in a decimal form, okay? So we're going to change this one to decimals. So I can take the square root of 25 and get 5. When I double it, I get 10. So I can use the square root method. You guys, you have to test that, okay? So this sign matches this sign. The square root of 25 is 5 equals 31. And now because everything worked out, we can take the square root of both sides. The one thing that I want to make sure that when you take, well, you probably wouldn't write this step. You probably would put the square root over both sides. You can do that. If you do this step, just make sure it's in parentheses. And then it would become x plus 5 equals, well, this time I'm actually taking the square root of this number. And you get plus or minus 5.6. And I round it to the nearest tenth. I'm actually going to set it up like one of the students in class did right now, because I think that some of you guys might like it a little bit better. Set it equal up to your positive number, and then set it equal up to your negative number. And then you can subtract 5 from both sides. And x equals 0.6. X equals negative 10.6. I hope that helps.